Astrodome. It is 8:40. Welcome back to CW Iowa Live. Lou and Jackie here, along with a good friend of ours, Michael Jankins. Good to see you, sir.
Good morning.
You're a big baseball fan. Did you know that about Mickey Mantle?
I didn't know it.
See that? At the Astrodome. You ever been to the Astrodome?
Never.
We have to take you on some trips, my friend.
I'm all in.
He's a big baseball fan. That's the reason we mentioned that. So, again, you keep an eye on a lot of the local teams, so we appreciate that. All right.
You also keep an eye on people, especially if they're needing some guidance in the terms of bankruptcy, because a lot of us, as we're maybe doing our taxes, realizing we don't have the money we need to pay certain bills. But there's an income determination before you're able to file for something like Chapter 7, correct?
Correct. And yeah, a few more days to tax time, so people need to get on the ball.
Right, right. We've talked about that before.
I just got mine figured out.
Did you?
It wasn't a happy day.
Oh, no.
You know, no, technically what you have until Tuesday, a week from tomorrow, to get your taxes in because of the holiday of some sort that comes into play on the following Monday. But
that's right.
So you have an extra day to file your extension.
Yeah, still not the greatest thing. And we've talked about that before, how that can all come into play if you're filing for bankruptcy. So you can see those segments at weareiowa.com underneath the CW Iowa Live heading. But what are we specifically talking about today?
So today we're going to talk about the requirements to be able to get a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, specifically what the income conditions are. So and people sometimes are looking this up on their own. I got a call on Friday from somebody looking into bankruptcy, and the person started out the conversation with, well, I don't really think I qualify for Chapter 7 because I've been doing some checking, and so I was reading on the income and things. And so it's a lot more complicated than just kind of checking out the income, which people do, and they assume that if their income is at a certain level that they've been reading about, well, they just don't qualify for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and they may have to do Chapter 13. Well, the income is just one part of the equation on things, and that's what we're going to talk about today, is the income conditions. In looking to see if you qualify for Chapter 7 consumer bankruptcy, you have to look to see whether the income of your family is at or below the median income of that family size in the state of Iowa. And so they get these figures from, I guess, the United States Census Bureau. And these figures, they change a couple times a year. Typically they go up. There's been occasions where there's been some slight downtick, but most of the time that I've seen since these laws have been in effect, the income's continually rising.
Now they change state to state. You said in the state of Iowa. So if you were in Illinois or even in Florida, they'd be different than they are here. Yeah,
each state they have different median income set, and primarily because people in different states are in different incomes. I think it's probably a given that the people that live in the state of New York are probably going to have a higher median income than we do here in the state of Iowa, because it costs substantially more to live in big parts of New York than it does anywhere in Iowa.
Absolutely. And you said it fluctuates. Is it a certain time of year that it changes?
Well, they just went up April 1st as far as how we look, what we have to use in bankruptcy. And I think in the latter part of the year, they make an adjustment again. So they had just bumped up now. And an interesting thing is I did this segment about 2 years ago, and so I had these figures. So the median income right now that just went in effect April 1st, for a single person it's about $50,000. So if you make that or below, you're in. You get to have a Chapter 7. If you're a family of 2, it's about 65.5 that you can earn. Family of 3, about 76.5, and family of 4, about 92.9. And then for each additional person in that household, you can add another $8,400 to determine the median income. Well, when I did this back in August of 2016, a single person, it was 46 compared to 50.
Wow, so it has gone up.
60,000 compared to now 65. Family of 3 was 71.6 now compared to 76.5. And family of 4 was 81.6, and now it's 92.9.
More than 10 grand more.
Yeah, so I mean, they're big changes, and it wasn't like this is 10 years ago. I mean, this is just since August of 16.
Yeah, a couple years
ago. So these things change. Now, how do you determine the household size and figuring out if you get the bigger incomes? Well, first of all, if you have a husband and wife, that's just a family of 2, and you get to claim the kids that are 18 and under or just graduating from high school. Now, if you have kids in college, even though they may not live in your home the whole time of the year, you get to still claim those kids that are in college.
You do?
Yep.
Okay.
So that kind of helps. And I don't know, I mean, it starts to push it. I've got a person that said, well, my kid's been in college a while now, it took a little bit longer, and they're like 24. But that's probably about the outside limit. You can't have a kid that's 30 still in college and go, yeah, I'm claiming that kid. They're on their way to being, well into their adult years. But now, sometimes people wonder, well, if I'm divorced and the 3 kids live with the ex-wife, I don't get to claim them because they don't live with me. Well, actually, you do.
Oh, you do?
So even if the children don't live with you full time, heck, even if they don't live with you at all, if you still have responsibilities for them, then you get to claim them as part of your household size. Now, for unmarried people, if you've got a child or children, even though you've not been married and they're living with their mom or moms, you still get to claim those kids. Well, most of the time, you've got a child support obligation for those kids. You may not always be paying it, but you still get to claim them.
Okay.
So, there's a lot of
Didn't realize
there's a lot to it, figuring out what your household size is, and obviously that matters a lot because the bigger the household unit, the bigger income you can make and still have a bankruptcy.
Okay.
Now, the next important thing is how do you calculate this income? Well, first of all, it's not based like an average of the whole last year. Actually, it's the previous 6-month period of your earnings prior to the month you file bankruptcy. So right now, the cases that we're filing in April, the 6 months is running from October 1st to March 31st.
Okay.
And so we calculate the person's income in that block of time, and it's based on the gross, not the net. So we have to gather all a person's income from this period of time, usually pay stubs if you're an employee, and then you have to take the total of that, divide it by 6, so you get a monthly amount. Then you multiply it times 12 to make it an annual amount, and then you compare that number to the median income that we just went over.
Okay.
And again, if you're below the number, you get a bankruptcy, Chapter 7, if you'd like to have one.
And if you're over, you don't have a chance, or you're saying that's just one element to look at?
That's just the first element.
Okay.
If you're under it, then the evaluation's over. We're working on your bankruptcy.
Then they process it.
Right.
Okay, you can move forward.
Move forward.
Okay, I understand what you're saying now.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're above that level.
Yeah, what if you are?
Well, then you have to pass a means test formula. And so that's a thing we're going to take care of in the next segment.
Okay.
Because that is also very complicated, and some people.
So you're not done. If you do make more money than
the 50. Let's say if you're an individual, single individual,
50.2
over 50, there's still an opportunity that we're going to talk about another time. So let's go back and talk about calculating our median home with different situations that we might have in the household.
Yeah. So now you can. We talked about wages. Well, then there's other kinds of income. Some people are self-employed, or they have small businesses where they operate as a sole proprietor.
Right.
So I mean, if you're a realtor, you're usually self-employed. If you brought in $100,000 in commission, well, it's not based on the $100,000 because you had expenses to get that $100,000. Right. So those are business expenses. You had to rent an office or pay your broker fees. You have advertising and a lot of chasing around in gas. Mm-hmm. So you're subtracting all of these things off the 100, and so what your net profit is what in fact is the number that you use for the 6 months rather than all the money that came rolling in. In other kind of businesses where you have to actually rent a commercial office space and pay employees, I mean, you could have hundreds of thousands of dollars coming in, but the money that actually found its way into your pocket may have only been $50,000 because there's a lot of expense to running some businesses.
Right.
So that's how self-employed people determine that. The other kinds of income that count in this, if you get VA disability as a veteran, that counts. If you get disability insurance because you're off of work for a period of time and they're paying you 60% or 50%, that income counts as part of the household income.
Okay.
Workers' compensation payments that you may have gotten during a certain period of time in that 6 months counts. Now, what does not count is Social Security of any kind.
Doesn't count.
If it's Social Security retirement or Social Security disability, Congress excluded that from income in determining this median income thing.
Really?
So there's all kinds of reasons that may have gone into it, but it really wasn't well thought through because there's a lot of other things that are similar to this that they didn't allow to be to opt out, such as VA disability.
Right.
Vets that have 100% disability, all that income, $3,000 a month, still counts.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it really wasn't well thought out by Congress, but that's not untypical for everything Congress does.
As I say, the rules you have to live by. So is
Right.
that 6 months? Is that a true reflection of what your household income is?
For many people, most of the time it is, and
Okay.
sometimes it's not. Timing can be very important. I mean, if
Right.
some people get a bonus at their job.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Just like you guys probably do.
All the time.
Got this pen. Pretty nice pen, I might add. But you mentioned that Social Security, you don't need to use that as a mean. But what about unemployment?
And unemployment is also excluded from.
That's
It's
excluded.
It's excluded. You
Oh.
don't count unemployment.
Really?
And it's treated just kind of like Social Security. I believe the evaluation was that the funding for unemployment derives in some way from the Social Security statutes or funding. So
From the same
I think
pot,
there's some kind of
basically, yeah.
connection that way, and that's why they justified its exclusion.
Wow.
Plus, it's not permanent. It's only
True.
for a fixed period, and then they're not going to have any income. So it's just been excluded as part of that calculation.
Okay.
But on these bonuses, so let's say somebody works for a company, and in March of this year, they maybe got a $5,000 bonus, and it's a one-time-a-year thing. Well, if that falls into your 6 months, that can really skew things because you don't get it the next 6 months.
I would call
And
it
so-
something else, but yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So then it almost, the effect of it is it's like duplicating it when you're including that in your 6 months.
Right.
So timing can be really
Timing
critical.
can be everything.
Sometimes you have to wait out till that passes out of the 6
6
months of
months.
the equation.
Right.
And sometimes there's other ways to deal with it, but
So
it's
many
a complicating factor.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk more about that complicated factor next time you're on our program. So if you want to learn more about the median income determination, how you figure that out, you can watch this again at weareiowa.com under the CW Iowa Live tab, or just go see this guy because he has some amazing answers for you if you have questions, especially when it comes to bankruptcy. Michael, how can people get in touch with you?
You can call me at 255-1855. You can find us on the internet at www.iowa-bankruptcylaw.com, or you can follow us on Facebook.
That
Wonderful.
works.
Great
All
to
right.
see you, sir. Thank
Good
you
to see
very
you,
much.
buddy. Alrighty, it is 8:53 right now, and we will be right back. And when we come back, it'll be time for Totally Serious News.
Yeah.